What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Dynasty Pod. Today we are going to be doing a startup Dynasty draft, Superflex. I think this is just one of the most fun ways to do Dynasty, personally. For me, I like doing Superflex a lot. I don't know about you guys, but it should be a very fun episode. We're going to be picking from the 1, the 3, and the 12. Got that randomly generated, so it should be fun.
Yeah, Trevor, you got screwed again. You had the 8 and the rookie mock, and now you have 12 and the startup.
That's my life, you know. Really, it's just taking the licks for everybody for no reason. So that's
unless you like drafting
really
12, I don't know.
You know, I mean, we talked about this yesterday a little bit.
Anywhere outside of like the top 8.
Yeah, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. I mean, it was yesterday. Sneak peek, everybody. We did these podcasts 2 days. But, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. But the rookie draft, the 8's a big drop-off. In startups, especially if we're talking about Superflex, there's a huge drop right toward the middle. So, 1 QB, I don't mind being at the turn, and I used to love the turn. Like, that used to be my favorites, that back turn, especially if we're doing third-round reversal, which we're not today. But if we were, that's, like, I do tend to like that spot. But with Superflex, because I like to get my quarterbacks as quickly as possible, as far as at least my first 2, and I like them to be, non-reaches, it's really hard to do that from the 12 spot, to get a quarterback at 112 and not be reaching from, some of these guys that are going to be available. But we'll get into that.
All right. So to open up the show, I want to do a little bit of a blind player comparison with you guys. And I just want to get your opinion on each individual player and their season last year, and see what you guys think of the players without telling you what their name is, and then we'll reveal who the players are, and then discuss a little bit on both their situations going into this year. So we have player A, has 129 targets, 75 receptions, 967 yards, 12 touchdowns, and he finished as the wide receiver 14. Player B had 98 targets, 58 receptions, 776 yards, 2 touchdowns, and finished as the wide receiver 44. So obviously you're taking the wide receiver A every single day, right? It's a pretty no-brainer.
Yeah, I'm trying to guess who these people are in my head.
I had a few guesses in mind.
Yeah. So who do you guys think wide receiver A and B are?
My guess was for A was going to be Brandon Cooks.
Okay.
Good guess. It's a good guess.
Trev, do you have anything for A?
Yeah, I'm not confident in my guess at all, but
I'm not confident at all.
just shy of 1,000 yards, 12 touchdowns. He ended up wide receiver 14. I don't even want to say it. I'm going to say Higgins. How many touchdowns did he have?
I do not know, but so you guys are both wrong. Wide receiver A was DK Metcalf.
No way. He had 12 touchdowns?
DK Metcalf had 12 touchdowns last year.
It's with Russell Wilson, so yeah.
Yeah. So, do you guys know who wide receiver B is?
2 touchdowns, right?
2 touchdowns.
This is in 2021, right?
Yes.
Like, this is... Damn.
I mean, my guess for 2 touchdowns is just DJ Moore, but I don't think he was that bad.
No, he wasn't that
low.
low, I don't
Such a low
think.
touchdown rate.
Wide receiver 40.
Maybe it's just Tyler Lockett. Maybe you just picked those Seahawks receivers.
You got anything?
Like, yeah, was it Waddle?
It was not Jalen Waddle. Jalen Waddle, I think
Waddle was incredible.
Yeah, Waddle had a decent amount of touchdowns, and he had I don't know if he hit 1,000, but he was really.
Yeah, I felt like he finished higher than wide receiver 44, but I just couldn't remember.
Waddle was like top.
He was top. I think he was 12, I think.
Yeah. He was very high.
So wide receiver B is Cortland Sutton. So the reason, obviously, why we have DK Metcalf and Cortland Sutton here is because you've got Russell Wilson leaving Seattle and going to Denver now. And I'd say most people would have Cortland Sutton as the wide receiver 1 on that team. What do you guys think about Russell Wilson going to Denver, who the wide receiver 1 is going to be there this year?
I think it's Sutton. I think we've seen a clear ability, if not, anything else, but we've seen an ability to be the one in that offense versus my mind's drawing a blank. What's his name? Dude who got hurt. Jerry Jeudy. Thank you, Jerry Jeudy, the Alabama guy. I mean, he's got plenty of the talent. We just haven't really seen it translated onto the field. He played 16 games his rookie year, finished in PPR as number 47, and then last year played in 10 games, finished as PPR number 85. So, I mean, I think it's an upgrade regardless to everybody. I don't think anybody can disagree that going from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson, if everything else is basically the same, because then we're losing Fant, but if everything else is basically the same, then the entire offense is better.
So now, on top of this, I agree with you. I think Sutton is the clear wide receiver 1. I don't think Jeudy has really shown much at all that he's a proven number 1. And it's funny you bring that up, Trev, is that going from Drew Lock to Russell Wilson is a clear upgrade. Well, it's also a clear downgrade for DK Metcalf, because whether you think it's Geno Smith going to be starting week 1 or Drew Lock, not much of a difference there. So I'm a little lower on DK this season. It's very scary to me.
Sorry, with the Baker news of him going to Carolina, everybody seems to think that Jimmy G is definitely not going to Seattle. Do you think that's true? Or do you think he's going to be heading that way?
It's tough because the 49ers could cut him, and if
for sure will,
he could get picked up.
And if he gets cut, then that's going to be his clear destination, I would believe. But they're not going to trade him, and I don't know. There's still a chance that they keep Jimmy G. I mean, I think most likely he'll probably get cut or traded before the season starts, but I'm not ruling it out completely. But at this point, even just assuming that Jimmy G is going to end up in Seattle is pretty risky when you're going in and thinking about drafting DK Metcalf. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, also, I just want to point out, for anyone who thinks that it has to be Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, Tyler Lockett finishes the wide receiver 14 last year. Now, obviously, the skill set is different between Metcalf and Lockett compared to Sutton and Jeudy. It's not exactly one comparison, but Russell Wilson has supported 2 high-end wide receivers for fantasy for multiple years now. And I don't see any reason why he can't do it there, even though, yes, there is a little bit more talent. It was always 1 and 2 in Seattle, and then that was it. In Denver, you've got 2 good running backs. You've got Tim Patrick. You've got 2 tight ends there that are going to get some work. But I do think that Sutton is going to be the clear 1, and he's going to be an absolute star. And it's a little bit more tricky on Jeudy, what's going to happen with him. But I think Jeudy is also going to be fantasy relevant, but just not to the degree that Sutton's going to be.
I'll say that in Dynasty, I think I will still take Metcalf over Cortland Sutton. Just because age and the fact that Tyler Lockett is so old. I think, long term, DK Metcalf has a better outlook to just continue to dominate over there, unless he gets, doesn't get a new contract and gets traded. But, I think this season. Yeah, what? And Metcalf is he's getting drafted well above Cortland Sutton, even in redraft.
I don't have the exact ADP, but I think it's Sutton is
38th
normally
over.
going. He's normally going in
30th
the
overall.
Yeah, and then Metcalf is around the third. So there's about a round and a half gap between the two.
Oh no, hold on, wait. You were talking about? Did you say Sutton or I thought I was doing Metcalf? Metcalf is 38th overall.
Yeah, Metcalf
Sutton,
is around the third, and then Sutton's I think the fifth round. I think he's coming.
Yeah.
He's starting
Sutton
to come
is
up.
going 94th overall. Jerry Jeudy is going 65th overall, and Lockett, just because we're talking about these guys all together, I must have passed him. Oh no, he's there. There he is, 132nd.
Yeah. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how both Seattle and Denver play out in terms of their wide receiver positions. Because then even on top of that, you got Tim Patrick he was the wide receiver 42 last year. Definitely going to be fun to see where those guys come off the board in today's draft. So without further ado, let's also jump into that draft. We're going to be doing a Dynasty, Superflex, PPR, no tight end premium, no third round reversals. So just pretty simple. So we
Just in general, I do want to point out that if it's ever an option in a startup, I mean, most of them I'm doing with you guys and other like teammates that we have across the leagues, but if I'm going into a random one, I do try to push for third round reversal. I just feel like it makes the teams a little more fair versus having the 101, 301, having that change in the third round. For people that don't know what third round reversal is, I hope you do if you're listening to this podcast, but if you don't, it's where first round, the second round goes through, so you have the 101 and you have the 212, and then instead of getting the 301, it flips to the person in the 12th spot having the first pick of the third round, and then it continues in a snake format from there.
Yeah. Yep, just makes things a little bit more balanced. But for this one, we're just going to do what I think more people probably do. There's probably less third round reversals out there. So let's get ready to start this up. And I'm on the clock with the 101. So I think I'm definitely not going to take too much time to consider this one. I think this one's you get the 101 and you run in the pick. It's Josh Allen. So for me, I don't really. Yeah.
Well, I was going to say there's debate on, especially talking Dynasty, of the top three quarterbacks. There's a lot of debate: Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and Patrick Mahomes. So I didn't know how much further is Josh Allen ahead of Patrick Mahomes and Justin Herbert for you.
Well, so we were talking a little bit before we started this episode. I do have Burrow ahead of Mahomes slightly. And I do have Herbert ahead of Mahomes also. So Herbert would be my number 2. But I think Josh Allen, with his running capability and how he finds
his
the
rushing
end zone,
upside is just so much better than the other three quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's a pretty clear 101. I think you'd be wrong for taking anyone other than Josh Allen. But then from the 2 to 4, I think it's all a little bit of a mix. I have those guys pretty equal. I like Herbert a little bit more. I think that offense is going to have a little bit more juice, going to be a little bit more efficient this year and for years to come. So Herbert does go off right after me, and Sam, you are up now. So
yeah, and so that's a little unfortunate for me because I think same as you, Brendan, I have Herbert over Mahomes. I have Herbert second after Josh Allen as for who I would want on my fantasy team, or dynasty team, I guess, in this situation. And that leaves me with Mahomes and Burrow, who we were talking about earlier about which one do we rank higher between Mahomes and Burrow. I'm more in the camp of we've seen several good seasons from Mahomes, even though they've perhaps been, not perhaps. If we look at his last few years, his average depth of target has gone down year over year. His fantasy finish has gone down year over year. He has kind of regressed from his initial breakout season. But I just think that Mahomes is so safe. He's locked into a 10-year contract with the Chiefs. He, Granted, he's lost Tyreek Hill and will probably lose Kelsey, but they, I think will continue to give him weapons as needed. Like this team is built around Patrick Mahomes. They'll draft the guys he needs. And Joe Burrow, I am concerned just with, I know he played great coming out off of his injury, but I'm concerned that it could happen again if they don't continue to invest in the offensive line. I know they made some investments this past year, but it's not quite to the point that you like for your franchise quarterbacks. So for me, it's still Mahomes over Burrow, so that's what I'm going to take.
Down by the skin of your teeth.
Yeah. So after you take Mahomes, we have Burrow, Murray. Then we have Jonathan Taylor coming off the board. Then Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, Najee Harris, Kyle Pitts, Lamar Jackson. And Trev, you are up at the 12. And while you're thinking about what you're going to pick, Jonathan Taylor is the first non-quarterback that comes off the board. Is this something that you guys agree with, or would you take more quarterbacks, or what do you guys think about Taylor at the 1-6?
When we're talking about a dynasty, I tend to prefer young talented wide receivers over young talented running backs, especially in the first couple rounds. Not that it's easier to find them, it's definitely not, but running backs age out the fastest. So when we're talking about a startup, I don't go for like the quote-unquote win-now team, so I'm typically not taking a running back in the first round unless he just falls so far and I think the player's worth it. Like if I'm at the 112. If I'm at the 112 and JT's there, I'm totally taking him. I'm not going to lie, for sure. But at the 1-6, I think I'd rather have one of the receivers that went after him or another quarterback. But that's just me.
Yeah, I think I would typically take Lamar Jackson 6, and then that would be the end of the quarterbacks I'm willing to take before Jefferson and Chase, and then I'd look at Taylor at 9.
Yeah, completely agreed with you guys. Yeah. So you're up now, Trev.
I mean, Lamar Jackson falling to 11 here. I think that team got a steal.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love Kyle Pitts. Taking Kyle Pitts at 110, I think, is a huge mistake in your startups. I don't regardless of whatever the other tight ends you may end up drafting. I think that's a mistake in the first round. But Lamar falling past the 7-8 spot, even for me that's ridiculous. But I wish he had fallen to me. I would have taken him here. So at quarterback, I'm looking at Prescott. Just going by ADP, we're looking at Prescott, Wilson, maybe Hurts. Running backs, there are a plenty, with Najee being the only other one that went off the board. So there's Javonte, who I'm a huge fan of. There's CMC, DeAndre Swift, Eckler. Wide receivers, only 2 came off, so there's still Kupp, CD Lamb, A.J. Brown, Deebo Samuel, Devontae Adams, tight end, Mark Andrews, Kelsey Kittle. If it's me, like I said, I typically like to go quarterbacks, at least knock the first 2 out as quickly as possible with the highest talent without reaching. I didn't think I'd be able to get him here, but I'm going to draft Dak Prescott at the 112, simply because I think there is kind of a tier break of young, capable, running quarterbacks. I'm surprised Lamar got down to 11, but I'm also kind of surprised that Dak got to 12. I think that is his ADP, but I don't think that should be it either. So saying that, my next pick is not going to be a quarterback. I'm going to see if I can't grab one a little later. So at running back, I'm still looking at the same guys: Javonte, CMC, Swift, Kupp, Lamb, Brown. Tight ends looking at Andrews, Kelsey, Kittle. For a dynasty format, I am not going to be drafting an older running back this early, but I do want one here. Because the wide receivers that are there are stacking with CD or going Kupp. You know what? Now that I'm looking at it, I'm going to take CD here. I'm going to stack him with Dak. Yeah, on that turn. Because he's definitely not getting back to me. You've got friggin' 24 picks before you come back, so there's going to be a tier break. I love wide receivers more than running backs this early anyway. So even though it hurts my feelings not to take Javonte or Swift here, who are 2 of my guys for sure, I am going to take, CD Lamb and see if I can't get that stack in Dallas.
Just real quick, just one thing. you said you wouldn't take Kyle Pitts in the first. I'm more of a believer on Kyle Pitts. I do think after the first 6 quarterbacks that I would take, which would be the first 5 that were taken off here in Lamar, and then after Jefferson, Chase, Taylor, and Harris, I think even after Taylor is taken, if you want to take Pitts over Harris, I think there is truly, like, Pitts is going to be that guy. That's just what I think of him. So I'd be willing to take him in the first. All right.
The only reason I say that, and Sam, if you want to throw in your opinion on it too, but the only reason I say that is I'm a huge Atlanta fan, and usually that means I'm going to take Atlanta guys. But they added Drake London. The team overall is not going to be good. They're going to continue to add weapons, like first and second round weapons. So as they improve their offensive line, as they improve their quarterback, as they improve their defense overall, because it's all bad, don't get me wrong, Kyle Pitts he may still be the I'm going to put it in quotes, but the main weapon, but that's still to be determined. And if he ends up being the second weapon for a middle-of-the-pack offense in 2 years, then you're going to regret taking him at 110 instead of taking Lamar Jackson, Dak Prescott, who went after him, Cooper Kupp, DeAndre Swift, CMC, Devontae Adams. He'll still be good. He just won't be worth the spot you picked him at.
Yeah, I think I'm more on the on what Brendan said of taking Kyle Pitts there. He's 21 years old, number 9 tight end overall in standard, number 6 tight end overall in PPR last year. I know it's not Matt Ryan, but this is somebody who, if they eventually get a good quarterback in the next couple of years, you could have Travis Kelce on your team essentially for the next 8 years. And you're basically, who wouldn't sign up to say, like, sure, I'll just have Travis Kelce as my tight end for the foreseeable future of my Dynasty team until I trade them. So, I think just you get an immediate differentiator at the position. No matter what Atlanta does, they're essentially going to focus the offense around Kyle Pitts and maybe some other players, but for now, Kyle Pitts is the core of their offense. So, let's see, who came off the board here?
I took CD. It was
DeAndre Swift, Christian McCaffrey, Javonte Williams, Mark Andrews, so a second tight end, Austin Eckler, and then 2 quarterbacks, Deshaun Watson and Jalen Hurts. I have not a lot of time to make this pick.
We took up all your time talking Pitts.
Yeah, I honestly have no idea. So I'm going to take who I normally take here, just because I don't have a ton of time. So I'm just going to go with my normal pick, and maybe we up the time for the next few picks. So honestly, I didn't think about this at all. I just took this is when I'm at this spot in the second round of Dynasty startup drafts. I take AJ Brown more than any other player, so I just went ahead and took him. Reason being, I know a lot of people are pessimistic about AJ Brown going to the Philadelphia Eagles. I think he's already shown that he can be an amazing wide receiver with a low passing volume offense. So I'm not worried at all about him being worse. I think he'll be just as good. And he's still 25 years old. He's shown incredible talent. And the other wide receivers on the board are Debo, who I'm honestly very concerned about. I really don't want to take Debo just because I think this contract situation is heading for a nasty end, if not this year, then in the future. And I really don't want that uncertainty, whereas AJ Brown has just signed a new contract. And then the other wide receivers you have here are kind of older, right? You've got Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs, both on the older end. I don't want those guys. And as far as running backs, I could have taken, a rookie with Breece Hall, but I really would rather take a receiver, kind of for the same reason that you're talking about, Trevor. Breece Hall is, we don't know what he's going to do yet, though everybody's very confident. I'd rather take AJ Brown, who's a known quantity. And then these other running backs are kind of at the end of that 2 to 3 year window. Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, I think these guys have 1 or 2 years left. So to me, it's an easy pick, AJ Brown, especially with no third round reversal, because if I need a quarterback, I have another chance at 303. So
I don't want to spend a ton of time talking about it, but real quick, Deshaun Watson with the most recent news, I don't think ends up 208, which is where he went in this draft. I mean, he if he plays, he's definitely worth that. I don't think he should play, but I also don't think he will play. At least some of the things are 6 to 8, some are 10 games, some are 12, some are the full season.
This is still Dynasty, and he's 26 years old, so.
Yeah,
I totally understand that, but if he's out a year, I don't want him in the second round. I don't think, because we haven't seen him at that point in 2 years. So what other player are you willing to take if you haven't seen them in 2 years?
Yeah, if you're picking Watson in the second, even if you take him in the first, if there was a big quarterback run early and you're picking late and you take Watson, you just have to understand that if he doesn't play, you're tanking for a year. You're gonna have to wait next year, and then hopefully
that's an okay strategy though. You know, I'm happy to take Watson and then take all really young guys, rookies, trade for picks, etc., and try to go into the 2023 year or 2022 league year knowing I'm not planning to win games.
Yeah.
But I have a personal vendetta against Deshaun Watson, so I'll never draft him.
Yeah, same here.
The Texans guy doesn't like Watson. Crazy.
Yeah.
All right. So after you took AJ Brown, Russell Wilson goes, and right now I'm looking 2 quarterbacks here: Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford. I'm not taking Trey Lance as my quarterback 2 with the second pick. He hasn't shown anything really that shows me that he'll be a guy. Even if he does have that rushing upside, I'm just not willing to gamble that much on Trey Lance for a guy who couldn't beat out Jimmy G all the year. Stafford is an interesting pick, but I think I've got a little strategy that I'm going to try out here. So I'm going to avoid that. Running backs, you've got, I'm looking at Joe Mixon, Dalvin Cook, Nick Chubb are the top 3 guys for me. And then wide receivers, you've got Debo, Devontae Adams, Stephon Diggs. I do have Josh Allen, so that stack wouldn't be bad with Diggs. I think for my first pick, I'm going to take Devontae Adams because I've got Josh Allen. I view him as the quarterback 1, and I'm going to take the wide receiver that I think could finish as the wide receiver 1 because Devontae Adams he's just that good.
You're setting up really nicely to potentially have a good team to compete this year with Josh Allen and Devontae Adams already.
Yeah.
Agreed. Devontae Adams is 29, and his last 4 finishes in PPR, you got the slightly injured year. So ignoring that one, you got 2, 1, and 3. So I think it's definitely possible that he's the wide receiver 1. But with the quarterback change and the offense change, I don't think he's the wide receiver 1. But I still think you have a wide receiver 1 regardless.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I do think that just based off the player's talent alone, I think he's still in the range of finishing as the 1. I don't think he will. I think it'll probably be Jefferson or Chase this year, or even Kupp. Repeating again, I do think that he's a little bit lower, but with the guys that are left, even though I do like Stephon Diggs, and I may even consider taking him with my next pick because I'm up on the clock again. To get that nice stack, that would be nice. But I just think Devontae Adams is the better player, and I think he'll have a great year with Carr still. So same players as before. I've also got Travis Kelce, so if I want to take Allen, Adams, and Kelce, try and just get the 1, 1, and 1 at each of those positions and see what I can do with running backs a little bit later. And I think normally I don't think I would go Kelce here. I think I would probably go with a receiver, whether it would be, say if I was picking 2 spots later and I didn't have if I wasn't trying to force the Stephon Diggs stack, maybe I would go someone like Jalen Waddle or T. Higgins just for the young upside. But I'm going to try and go with the 1-1-1 strat and see how good I can make my starting team with Allen, Adams, and Travis Kelce here. trying to lock down dominance at each of the positions on my team. So.
Oh man, that's brutal.
Yeah. So after I take
Yes.
Kelsey, Jalen Waddle goes off the board, and you are up now.
So Jalen Waddle's probably my second most owned player in Dynasty leagues after CeeDee Lamb. And I think maybe 50 to 60% of my Dynasty leagues, I have both CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle. So I really, really wanted Jalen Waddle there, and was hoping he could come to me. That leaves me with quite a decision. Yeah, so.
Are you worried about his finish at all with Hill there?
I'm not too worried about Waddle. I think that he's going to be worked in. I think you're going to see with Hill and Waddle, I think both of these guys are going to get touches out of the backfield because that running back room is just not good. Despite, Chase Edmonds is there, Raheem Mostert, it's still not going to be great. And I think what you've seen with Debo,
the gas man there too.
Yeah, I mean, with what you've seen out of Mike McDaniels in San Francisco and Debo Samuel, he's going to get these guys the ball in creative ways. And I think even Jalen Waddle, one of his big things was he was a bit of a burner. And he would just break open these like 60, 70-yard touchdown runs in Alabama. And he didn't really do that. He was more of like a short yardage. And obviously it's because of Tua and what his skill set is. But I think there's more to unlock with Jalen Waddle. So I think even with Tyreek Hill being there, he's definitely got a ceiling cap. He's not going to be a wide receiver 1, but I think he could be a very solid and steady wide receiver 2 that's not really going to disappoint you a whole lot.
This is Waddle.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about Waddle. Yeah, I'm not, to be honest with you.
For the next couple of years, but I think Tyreek Hill is on the older end. I think Waddle's got wide receiver 1 potential once Hill's gone. So, yeah. I mean, I love Waddle.
Yeah, agreed.
Yep. Yeah, if I pick Waddle up, it's.
What am I going to take here? Do you want to talk? You want to go ahead? You want to say one more thing, Trevor?
Well, one thing is I was going to say if I grab Waddle at all in a startup, it's for the offense after Hill. It's not during. Like great if he performs with Hill, but it's because I believe in his talent and I believe that once Hill is gone, he's the one and it's clear cut and he has the talent to do that. Just throwing that out there.
Yeah. So while you're making your pick, Sam. You were debating between CeeDee Lamb and Javonte Williams, Trev, and seeing some of these running backs go off the board and what's left. Are you still happy with the CeeDee Lamb pick so far?
So I am never happy with my picks if I'm at the turn, seeing who got back and who didn't. Just being honest, like I took Dak and I took CD, and seeing that 3 quarterbacks and 5 wide receivers went off the board so far, so it's halfway done. Assuming that doubles to about 8 and 10, then I'm gonna love and hate myself. So I'm never happy with it, but I am happy with the talent of CD, and I don't know, just being honest. We'll see how it shakes out.
All right, so who I have on the board here? Honestly, I'm not looking at any running backs right now. I prefer to take later, younger running backs in my dynasty startups. I want to build around wide receivers typically. So I'm not, the running backs here are really Mixon, Cook, Henry, who are all older, and then you have Breece Hall, who's younger but improving. So again, just like I said when I took AJ Brown, I don't want those guys. I don't want Debo and Diggs for the same reason. The only receiver I'm interested in really is Higgins. Because I really am confident in Higgins, even with Chase, and he's very young, still 23. But actually here, I mean, just looking at the fact that I'm going to be waiting a long time until I pick again, and I think a lot of quarterbacks are going to come off the board. For me, I really think I have to go quarterback here, and I'm not going to take Lance. I'm not taking Matthew Stafford. I'm going to take Trevor Lawrence.
Interesting.
And potentially,
there's always the one guy.
I mean, I'm going to have, and potentially now I have Patrick Mahomes And Trevor Lawrence, one of the most hyped quarterbacks since Andrew Luck. So, I mean, now I've got potentially two of the best young quarterbacks in the NFL. If Trevor Lawrence improves over the next couple of years, it's a bet. But, I mean, I could be locked in at quarterback for the rest of this league's future, essentially. So.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, no, I think it's a good pick. I'm just making fun. There's always some guy that takes Lawrence, and everyone else is like, no way, I'd take Lawrence right there. He should drop the. And they're like, yeah, no, he's worth it. If he pans out, he's a huge gain for your team.
Yeah. The one thing I will say about Trevor Lawrence, he showed virtually nothing to me last year that he was going to work as an NFL quarterback. But on that same hand, his situation couldn't have gotten any worse than it was.
Oh, yeah.
And he was the quarterback. Yeah, he was the quarterback 23. So even just bumping up, you're not picking him as the quarterback 1. You're taking him as a quarterback 2. So if he can come to be, quarterback 15, quarterback 18, around that, you got a young guy who showed a lot of talent in college, and I don't hate the pick. I'd take Stafford ahead of him, but I don't hate the pick. So after you took Trevor Lawrence, you've got Breece Hall, Joe Mixon, Deebo Samuel, Trey Lance, Matthew Stafford, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook, Stephon Diggs. So still not much more running backs or quarterbacks. You got 2 and 2, or wide receivers and quarterbacks. So you got 2 and 2 coming to you now, Trev, and you're on the clock.
So, Derrick Henry, Dalvin Cook went 9 and 10, and I wasn't going to take them, but I would have definitely been tempted to. So I'm kind of glad they went there. The running backs available to me, looking at ADP right now, are and if you're at the turn, don't focus on ADP, because the only ADP game you can really play is this guy's definitely not getting back to me. You can't really play, is this guy going to get back to me? I mean, you just can't. So I'm looking at Kamara, Chubb, Barkley, Akers. Wide receiver, I'm looking at Higgins. Somehow he fell all the way to me. I think that's a mistake for y'all's part. Thank you. And Hill, Metcalf, Drake London, the rookie, Deontay Johnson. Tight end, we're looking at Kittle, Waller, Hawkinson, and Schultz. If I were to get my quarterback 2 here, which I'm definitely tempted to, it would either be Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, or Tua Tagovailoa or Mac Jones. So, just a real quick tidbit: I'm not taking Rodgers or Carr here as my quarterback 2, mostly because if I'm already trying to build a young team, I don't think it's a mistake to take Rodgers or Carr. But me personally, I don't like to take the older guys. So Carr's only like 30, 31, but Rodgers is like 55 or something. So I'm definitely going to get a younger guy. Running backs, love Chubb, but he has no PPR value. Barkley, I think, is washed. It's my personal opinion. Kamara is going to be suspended a few games, but he's also a little older. Wide receiver, I already said I think Higgins was a mistake to let him fall to me. Hill, Metcalf. I'm probably going to end up going another wide receiver here and taking Higgins. I believe in his talent. I know you both do as well. The fact that he got back to me, I love. I actually would have rather taken Stephon Diggs, even though he's older. He went the 1 pick before. I would have rather had Diggs here to pair with CD, but I will take T. Higgins. The youth mixed with the talent, mixed with the attached to a pretty damn good quarterback. I think I'm going to feel good about that.
Yeah, back in the third, that's great value on Higgins.
Yeah, I don't think it was the guys, and it's ADP, but the guys that took Derrick Henry and Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook was his second running back. Derrick Henry was his third. I don't think T. Higgins falls to me, but I am going to appreciate it this time. So the same guys that were available are still available, obviously. So for me, it's tough to not go quarterback here. And for my personal general dynasty setup, I like to have young wide receivers and young quarterbacks if it's Superflex to start. So I love Fields, loved his talent, hated where he ended up, hated how they're treating him. So, like, last year I would have easily taken Fields here as a QB2 and, push my chips in on him, but I have sold every bit of him that I could because I think Chicago is going to waste his talent. So with the composition that I already have and knowing that some of these guys definitely aren't going to make it back to me with 24 picks, I'm actually going to scroll down the quarterback ADP just a hair, and I'm going to end up taking Tua Tagovailoa as my QB2. Last year he finished.
Is because I would have taken Tua, but I knew you would have taken him, so I knew you were going to take Tua.
Last year he finished as like. Yeah, last year he finished as in pretty poor. He finished number 26. But if you look at his actual game logs, he had a like little pockets of pretty daggum good play. And then he finished the year poorly. So there's a bad taste in most people's mouths when it comes to Tua, but I'm a big believer in what they're doing around him to improve him. So if he only jumps 8 spots from the 26 to, what would it be, 18, that's not really good enough to take him where I took him. But I'm hoping that maybe between that and actually playing every game of the season, he jumps like, 12, 15, 18 spots from where he finished last year.
Yeah. So after you took Tua Tagovailoa, you got Tyreek Hill, Alvin Kamara, DK Metcalf, who we were talking about before. He goes at the 4-4. Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Drake London is the first rookie wide receiver off the board. George Kittle, DJ Moore. So, Sam, while you're making your pick, yeah, I completely agree with what you were saying about Justin Fields. I know me and you were both extremely high on Fields. We both had him as a QB1 coming out. I'm out on Fields now completely because I think his career is just going to die in Chicago. What they're doing is terrible for him. They've shown that they don't really care if he succeeds. If he succeeds this year, great, but if he doesn't, move on because we're rebuilding. And this kind of thing it doesn't really work out. Most of the time when he goes to a new team, it's just all of the bad mechanics and everything ingrained in him that he learned in Chicago are just going to stay there. I don't hate the Tua pick there. With what's on the board for you. Drake London coming off in the 4-7 as the first rookie wide receiver. It's a little rich for me. I'd much rather prefer to take Drake London in the 5th. I think he was my favorite wide receiver coming out of the draft.
Samesies.
I wasn't a fan of the landing spot though.
I love the landing spot.
The
Not
talent.
I see what you mean.
Yeah. The talent of that team it's just going to be pretty poor this year. I don't see him. He's more. I would say Drake London's specialty is obviously contested catch and being that red zone guy, getting touchdowns. That's where more of his bread and butter is going to be. He's Mike Evans comparison a lot in the draft. So I think it's just going to be a worse offense, and then on top of that, you don't know going forward. So I'd rather wait and take some of these guaranteed guys like DJ Moore. I think Terry McLaurin's still on the board. Some of those guys I'd take ahead of him. So if you can get him in the 5th, I'd wait, but I think it's a little too much for me there. Sam, you're on the board.
Yeah. So I'm set at quarterback, so thankfully I don't have to consider Fields, who I've never had any shares of and never will have any shares of. I'm probably, honestly, I love how this draft's calling to me. There's another one of my absolutely favorite players to draft, probably my 3rd most owned player after CeeDee Lamb and Jalen Waddle, still left on the board for me. Running backs here, we're starting to get into this tier of younger running backs that I really love to pick from. This is why I love to go wide receiver early, is because all of these older running backs get picked. And then you're left with these kind of younger guys that I think are ascending and you have more time with. So I'm really thrilled with this tier of younger running backs. That's probably who I'm going to take here. Akers, Etienne, and Gibson, those are the first 3 on ADP. I'm not taking any of those guys, though. Akers, I'm still concerned that he really did not look great coming back from the Achilles, and I don't want to take a bet this early on Akers. ETN, we haven't seen anything from. So again, in the first 4 rounds, I'm skeptical to take somebody who is really just all rookie hype. And then Gibson, we've talked in the rookie mock about why I'm concerned that Gibson's going to be in the committee. So it's going to be my absolutely, again, well, I guess third favorite, but number 1 favorite running back to draft, and that would be J.K. Dobbins. I love J.K. Dobbins. I think he's what? No, Picton? It's because y'all talk for like 3 minutes every time I'm in my pick.
No, yeah, my bad. I was gonna ask though, did you take him a little early just because you didn't think he was gonna get back to you, or do you normally take him in the 4th round?
I'm not sure that Brendan would take him. I know Brendan is obviously a huge Ravens fan, but he doesn't have a ton of shares of Dobbins, so I don't know how high on Dobbins he is. But I do think that Brendan was probably going to take a running back, so that's why I did take Dobbins versus a wide receiver here. But mostly, I just love J.K. Dobbins. I think everybody has forgotten how well he played before his injury last year. I think they forget that this is a primarily running-based offense. Gus Edwards, to me, Gus Edwards is a nobody. I think he plays well when necessary, but he's an undrafted. He's undrafted, right?
He is undrafted, yeah.
Yes, no draft capital invested in Gus Edwards. I don't think there's any chance really that Gus Edwards is the guy over J.K. Dobbins at any point. Obviously, there are injury concerns to start the season for J.K. Dobbins, though. So that's my only concern there, is that it sounds like it was more than an ACL injury. It sounds like multiple ligaments, potentially an LCL as well. So it could take a longer to heal. But again, I'm willing to take the bet here because we don't really know for sure. It could come back to bite me later on in the preseason if he's still not healing. But yeah, so I'm willing to take the bet just on the situation and the talent. And he's 23 years old, so I have a nice window with J.K. Dobbins still.
Yeah, so I agree. I do really like Dobbins. I'm pretty high on him. I don't think I'm actually as high as you. I'm a little bit more worried about him coming off the injury. Plus, I know that he's gonna get. I know you say that Gus Edwards is a nobody, but from someone who watches the team, he's involved. They really like him in Baltimore.
I just mean from the sense of I think people worry, is Gus Edwards going to take over?
Yeah, no, that's
going to matter work. And
that's not going to happen.
No, J.K. Dobbins has the draft capital. He's the guy they want as their running back. Gus Edwards is the guy they want as their backup, or at least to spell J.K. Dobbins. So.
Yeah, I will say I think the reason why I like Dobbins a little bit less than you is I think that the passing game will open up more. They're going to try and make that a focal point. So it's not going to be as much running as 2 years ago when J.K. Dobbins really broke out. And Lamar is going to eat into J.K. Dobbins' work a little bit with his rushing and then a little bit of Gus Edwards. So I think he's got a little bit of a ceiling cap, but I do really like J.K. Dobbins. We'll just have to see how that plays out. And it's going to be interesting to see. Yeah. Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick, so you said the Ravens are going to be trying to move to a focal point of passing more than running, you think? But, I mean, they didn't show that with the moves they made in the offseason, so
I wouldn't say
I have a hard time.
Not make it more of a focal point than running, per se, but I think they're going to open it up more than they have in the last 2 years, where running, they've been dominant. They've been, I think, first and second in rushing yards and run attempts in the past 2 years. So I think they're going to try and pass more, and I think they do believe in their young receiving core. So I think that's just what it seems like. That's what they're saying. We'll obviously see. I think it's still going to be a very run-heavy team, but I think Ravens going to have a good year this year, and they're going to try and pass a lot more. Yeah, so I'm up here now. With the way my roster is constructed, I've got quarterbacks here. I've got Fields. I'm not taking. So I've got Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. I'm looking at, but I think you might be able to get Brady a little bit later. Maybe not. Running backs: David Montgomery, Aaron Jones, Leonard Fournette. I'm looking at Antonio Gibson potentially. I don't need a tight end. Wide receivers, you got Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman, Terry McLaurin. But the way my roster's constructed, I'm really going to be swinging for the fences here. So I'm going to take a guy who I think will end up as a wide receiver 1 this season, strictly because he's going to be the guy early, and that's Mike Evans. He's going to be the guy with Chris Godwin out for a little bit to start the season, and Rob Gronkowski is not going to be playing as of right now. He's retired. So Mike Evans, he's going to be the guy, and I think he's going to be fed a little bit more than he was last year. So
For sure.
I really like that. I've got Devontae Adams, Mike Evans. Love that wide receiver duo. Now, I've got another pick here, and with the way quarterbacks... So you try and look and see what other teams have done. So I look ahead of me right now. You've got Team 2 with 2 quarterbacks. You have Sam with 2, 4, and 5 both have 2 quarterbacks. You've got 3 teams without quarterbacks, 3 teams with 1 quarterback, and then Trev, you also have 2 quarterbacks. So the likelihood
I'll take another one though.
The likelihood that about, you would think maybe 5 quarterbacks will come off the board. And you got to look at
least,
these guys that you like. I think like I said, I passed on Stafford, which I think I would take Stafford with the 2-12 or the 3-1. But I do have a strategy, and I'm going to hopefully see if it pays off for me. I'm going to take a running back here. And I'm going to take a guy that I also think could be a running back 1, because I do still need that guy. And it's going to be Aaron Jones. For me, I was debating between Aaron Jones and Leonard Fournette, but I just took Mike Evans, so I'd rather just not have both of my... I'd rather not be all in on that in case something happens to Tom Brady. But I do think Aaron Jones...
It gives you the option to take him later, too. Tom Brady, I mean.
Yeah, I do think Aaron Jones, he's going to be very heavily involved in the passing game now. I think Aaron Jones is going to take a big increase in the passing game because of the lack of wide receivers that they still have. They drafted Christian Watson, they have Allen Lazard, but besides that, it's really just a bunch of nobodies that are trying to compete to make that roster and get starting time. So you're going to see a lot more of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon catching out of the backfield. And you already saw that last season. Rodgers has no problem going to his guys. And he's got great rapport with Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. So I love Aaron Jones. I think Leonard Fournette, you could say the exact same thing. Pretty much copy and paste that with the way Tom Brady's going to throw to him. So I like both of those guys there. I think Aaron Jones has just showed that he can really do a little bit more, and Leonard Fournette he can disappear at times. So it's just a matter of if Aaron Jones gets into the end zone a lot more than he did last year, he really could come back to being that wide receiver or the running back 1.
So Team 2 is killing me right now. I was playing the ADP game with Michael Pittman. That was going to be my pick. So just like Jalen Waddle and Justin Herbert, he sniped me every single time he's picked before me. I wanted Herbert, Waddle, and Michael Pittman. Team 2 who's just a computer, but is absolutely killing me with these picks. So I'm pretty stuck, honestly. I was a little take locked onto taking Pittman there. I love Michael Pittman. Anyways, okay. So who?
Me too. I think getting him in the 5th round is a value for whoever does end up getting him.
I would have loved to get Pittman. Anyways, not an option. So let's look at who I've got. I'm not going to go quarterback yet. I'm pretty happy with these 2 guys, and I need to fill in other positions. There are, running backs, there's still a couple decent guys on the board with Antonio Gibson and Cam Akers there. Again, I have concerns there with both of those guys long term. So I really would rather not take those guys, which leaves the tight ends that we have left. Not anybody interesting. Darren Waller, who I think is going to lose a lot of targets to Devontae Adams. T.J. Hawkinson, who is, honestly, there's a ton of mouths to feed in that offense now. So I like TJ Hawkinson. I like his youth, but he's a little bit too far down the ADP board for me to try to pick somebody like that there. So that leaves me with wide receiver. The two young wide receivers that I think are left in this tier are Deontay Johnson and Terry McLaurin. And those two guys are really, there's a tier break after that for me for proven young wide receivers. I think you can get into, the rookies after that, like your Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, who are still on the board. You can get into guys like Rashad Bateman, Cortland Sutton, some of these younger guys that are a little less proven. But to me, Terry McLaurin, Deontay Johnson is the tier break there. So I'm going to take one of those two guys. I'm honestly not a huge fan of either of them. So, which is why I would have rather taken Michael Pittman, who I am a big fan of. But for me, Deontay Johnson is, I think, very quickly headed to a different team. I think as soon as his contract is done, he will be somewhere else, and they're gonna, stick to the other guys that they have there, especially after taking Pickens. And I know there's been some news that he will likely not extend with the Steelers, and so he will be a free agent after this season. Whereas Terry McLaurin just signed a huge extension. So to me, that's the differentiator between those two guys. Even though the quarterback situation for the Washington Commanders isn't necessarily great right now, it will probably improve if Carson Wentz doesn't play great. So I'm happy to take Terry McLaurin and just hope that the team gets better. I obviously believe in the talent. He's played great with mediocre quarterback play already in the past. So that's my pick.
I really like Terry McLaurin, the talent. Obviously,
I love the talent. I love the talent for sure.
Situation could be way better, but I think getting him at 5'3", I personally like him better than Pittman.
I just like the situation for the
but
offense
that's okay.
there. I just think the Colts offense is going to be really good this year. I think Matt Ryan's going to play great for them. So I just like the situation for him to get more touchdowns. But I think talent. I like the talent of McLaurin over Pittman too. I think talent of those three guys, Pittman, McLaurin, Deontay Johnson, McLaurin is definitely talent-wise the best out of those three. Just the situation is a little discouraging with the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about what I saw last year out of Matt Ryan. I think it was very much a decline in play from his previous years. So if he declines
with
even
no
more,
offensive weapons.
That's also very fair.
To throw to.
That's very fair.
Yeah.
But I do think
pretty bad offensive line.
Even with what he had last year with Atlanta, it's going to get a lot better.
Yeah.
And I just don't know how much of an improvement it's going to be from Carson Wentz. So obviously Michael Pittman did great, but I think it's just personally I like the talent, so you just take whoever you think is going to be better. After you take McLaurin, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery off the board. Justin Fields goes, so you don't have to worry about making that pick, Trev. Ken Walker, Aaron Rodgers, Derek Carr, and Darren Waller go off the board.
So Deontay Johnson is still on the board.
Deontay Johnson's still on the board.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. A bunch of running backs went. So Ken Walker,
You
Cam
already
Akers,
took
Antonio
two
Gibson,
wide
David
receivers,
Montgomery. Yeah, I'd still be
running backs
tempted to
probably
take another
what
one.
you would have
Maybe.
wanted there, honestly, huh?
Yeah, I could still take a wide receiver here. It doesn't hurt my feelings any. When we're talking about the guys that are available.
Were you hoping
At
for
running
one
back.
of those running backs out of those four guys, though? Akers, Gibson,
At running back,
Walker?
Yeah. So what now?
Would you have liked to get one of those running backs back to you, though, out of those four young guys, Akers, Gibson, Montgomery, or Walker?
I don't believe Gibson or Akers
If
would
they
be.
fell to you at 5'12", though, would you?
Yeah,
have
even at
taken those
5'12", I don't think I would take him. I would definitely take David Montgomery. I was hoping David Montgomery would get back to me, but I would not take Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, or Ken Walker at 5'12" or
I think I
6'1".
would take Gibson at 5'12" or 6'1". I think at that point, I think even in a committee, he's going to get the passing offense. He's going to get the most valuable touches. He's very talented, but yeah, Akers and Walker I would not take. I think Walker and Rashad Penny could very well be like equal this year. Melvin Gordon, Javonte Williams situation.
Yeah, for me, even I would say the third. I was debating between Jones and Fournette. Fournette's still on the board, but
Yes,
I if I had to pick another running back, I think for me it would have been Montgomery. There, I do think that
I agree.
they are gonna. He's on the last year of his contract. I think they're probably gonna run him into the ground a little bit. They're gonna use him a lot and then move on, and then Khalil Herbert will probably be the guy there, or they're gonna go with someone else, try and find someone new. But I think he's gonna get a lot of work this year.
I agree. I actually think, out of the guys that are left, we're talking about the talent gap. I don't think with the guys that fell, I don't think I would have taken them, but I will take the guys that are next, like in this range of Fournette, Jacobs, Zeke, and James Conner. And you could throw Elijah Mitchell in there, but I'm not a believer in taking the gamble with the San Francisco running back as my running back 1 or 2. It's just me personally. So that's who I'm looking at running back. Wide receiver, I'm looking at Johnson still, like we said. I'm also looking at a couple of rookies in Burks and Wilson. At the top of the show, we talked about Judy. He's available. Chris Godwin. It's video too. Tight end, we're talking about Hawkinson, Schultz, Goddard, the Muth. If I were to go a QB3 here, which I'm not opposed to at all, we're looking at Mac Jones, Zach Wilson, Tom Brady, Kirk Cousins, that range. And I've only got a couple seconds left on this particular pick, so real quick, I'm going to make it. I'm going to go wide receiver here, actually, and I am going to go Deontay Johnson, another team or not. I do think he's an elite talent. I think he is a possession guy. Even he's shown only the one real year of elite talent, but he has shown that he has it. So if somebody does get him and they want to use him that way, I think he's getting an upgrade from Big Ben or Trubisky this year to whoever it's going to be, hopefully. So I don't have a problem taking him this late. So the same guy's still available. I still haven't taken a tight end. My team right now is 2 quarterbacks and 3 wide receivers. All the wide receivers are young. The quarterbacks are young. It would be detrimental to take a quarterback here, but I would like to, but I'm not gonna. I am instead going to get my RB1 off the board and go with a guy that I actually really believe in this year. And I'm getting him super late, so I don't think, if I'm wrong, I don't think it's that big of a deal, seeing as he's the 20th running back off the board right now. I'm going to take Josh Jacobs. I think that offense is going to score more touchdowns. I think they're going to need him more. They didn't pick up his 5th year, right? That was the latest news on him, really?
Yeah.
Yeah, so not picking up a year, that's fine for me. He's still young. He still has all the talent in the world. And they don't really use him in the receiving game, but he has that capability. So there's still that option, at least, if they ever were to change their mind about him. After he went, it was Garrett Wilson, rookie. Mac Jones as the QB2 for Team 10. Fournette, we talked about. Burks, Zeke, Hawkinson, Keenan Allen, and Chris Godwin. Even with Chris Godwin's injury, he's averaging his ADP at 609. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I just want to talk about Chris Godwin real quick because if he got to me, it would have been hard not to take him because I've got Mike Evans. But for a guy who I believe he's 25 years old, Chris Godwin's 26. Chris Godwin's 26 years old. His talent is great. He got a 3-year deal this offseason with Tampa Bay. You obviously don't know who the quarterback's going to be after Tom Brady, but I mean, the dude is so talented. And going after guys like Treylon Burks, Garrett Wilson, for me, Deontay Johnson, Michael Pittman. I mean, I'd just rather have Chris Godwin. You know, it all depends on how your team is, but if you have a team that you're not exactly in win now mode, If you can get Chris Godwin in the 6th and then afford to have him sit out for the first couple weeks, that's incredible. It's incredible value. Keenan Allen was someone that I was looking at a lot with my next pick. Just with the way my team is now, I don't really care too much about age. I'm kind of looking more so at just who, because I'm clearly, I've got guys that can compete now. So Keenan Allen would have been a great guy who could probably finish as a wide receiver 12 to 16, not have too many bad weeks, maybe a couple really good weeks, but he'll be that more consistent guy. So I was really looking at him, and Leonard Fournette goes, so don't get to make that pick. But yeah, so we've got I just want to talk real quick. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 tight ends off the board in the first 6 rounds. I know you guys were talking about TJ Hawkinson. What do you guys think about the tight end situation right now? Do you like waiting for tight ends in a startup?
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I'm going to wait unless I get Mark Andrews.
Yeah. 100% agree.
I'm
love
not
Andrews.
Going to take Kelsey. I'm not going to take Waller.
Mm-hmm.
I'll take, again, I think we talked about Pitts enough already, but I would take Pitts in the place that we talked about him. I would take Andrews early second. I'd take him even earlier than the 206 where he went. But I typically tend to skew younger with the startup, so I'm probably not going to take Kelsey. I'm really, really low on Waller this season. I think Devontae Adams is going to take a lot of his target share, so I'm not touching Waller. And then, I'm probably not going to get Kittle either at his ADP, honestly. Just not thrilled about how he's been trending down a little bit over the past couple of years. So TJ Hawkinson is like the first young guy that's there. But I think we talked about. I think I talked enough even in my last pick about why I don't really like taking him in ADP. Even I just think there's a lot of mouths to feed in a subpar Detroit offense. What do you think, Trevor?
I'm the same as you for the most part. I would take Mark Andrews earlier than he went. I would take him. I mean, if you believe in him, which I do, and I didn't take him here, but I'd take him at the turn. That doesn't bother me at all.
Yeah.
But Pitts for me was a little early.
He's probably, he's got.
Travis
Kelce's 32, so he's got maybe 6 years left still, at least.
3 years in a row finishing as the number 1, the number 6, and the number 5 tight end, and I think that's his floor. Honestly, is about 6. Like, you're not going to have a season, I don't think, unless he just goes down to a major injury. I don't think you have a season that he's. Damn, your pick's about up, but I don't think you have a season that he finishes out of the top 6.
I'm going to make my pick, and then you guys give me a few minutes to talk about it.
Yep, absolutely.
So I took a pick of a guy I'm rising a lot on in this offseason, Marquis Brown. I think the trade to the Cardinals into a really much higher volume passing offense, DeAndre Hopkins suspended for the first 6 games of the season. I see Brendan is already
I wanted to put him in my queue. Accidentally drafted him.
I'll let you go. Okay. I was like, wow.
I've seen it too. I was like, all right, dang, he ran.
I'll keep talking about Marquis Brown, and then I'll let you go.
No, go for it. That was a misclick.
But I love Marquis Brown coming into this season, especially with DeAndre Hopkins out the first 6 games. I think that gives him a chance to establish himself. I don't think there's really anybody else for Kyler Murray to throw to until DeAndre Hopkins is back, and DeAndre Hopkins is pretty old. So, I know he's been a little bit hot and cold the last few seasons, but I'm in the 6th round. I'm really happy to get Marquis Brown here. This was somebody who's everybody believed in coming out of college and has played well for the Ravens, all things considered.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
absolutely. As your wide receiver 3, I don't think that's a mistake at all. Talking about in the 6th round, you're getting Marquis Brown, who promises to be very good on the new team that he's on. I mean, you can't beat that in the 6th round.
Yeah, so I've risen a lot on him. I would say I was probably not at all a Marquis Brown fan until this trade, but I'm starting to really like the situation there. Yeah, man. Are you sticking with Cortland Sutton, Brendan?
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with him. My IQ was pretty low, so I was between a couple guys.
He ran it, and
Yeah.
I'll say this. I will say, so the other wide receivers I considered at 6'10" were Cortland Sutton and Rashad Bateman. So Rashad Bateman and Cortland Sutton were the other two that were on my board, who I know, Brendan, you won both of those guys, probably. I don't know if you picked both of them, but I know you like both of those guys.
Yeah, love.
But I went ahead and went with Marquis Brown. But those are the three wide receivers I was looking at.
So after you take Brown, Judy goes off the board. I take Sutton there. I was looking, it was a misclick, but I probably would have ended up going with Sutton here anyway. Between wide receivers, there really are, I would say, there are 2-3 wide receivers. For me, it's Sutton, Bateman, and is Brandon Cooks is still on the board, correct? Yeah.
Yep.
So
yes, he is.
So between those three guys that I'm looking at, running back, you got James Conner, Elijah Mitchell, A.J. Dillon's there, but I'm not going to take A.J. Dillon with Aaron Jones.
I totally would. Just throwing that in there. I totally would.
Yeah.
He'd be the RB2, but really he'd be your RB3, and he's a great backup.
Yeah. You got tight ends I'm not going to take because I've got Kelsey, but Dalton Schultz is here, which I have no problem making that pick. I like Schultz a lot.
Yeah.
I think he's going to be a top 5 play with how much vacated targets are already in Dallas from you've got Amari Cooper, Cedric Wilson leaving. So he's going to have a good season. I already know what my pick is here, and this is a guy that I was thinking about taking at the 5-1. This is why I passed on Matthew Stafford, is because I thought I would be able to get this guy who, in all reality, not too much of a difference from Matthew Stafford. It's Kirk Cousins. So Kirk Cousins.
I love Kirk Cousins this year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm surprised, Trev, you were talking about quarterbacks that you were going to take when you were taking Tua, and you didn't even bring up Cousins. Kirk Cousins he's such an underrated quarterback for fantasy. I think the points per game between Stafford and Cousins was like 21-19. So Cousins is just a little bit under that, but there's not much of a difference. And if you look at the ADP, Stafford going at 3.8, and I'm getting Cousins at 7.1. That's pretty great. And then you've got, who is it? I believe it's Mike McDonald coming over as the coach for the Vikings now, and that's going to be a very pass-happy...
Kevin O'Connell, the new head coach?
Oh, is it Kevin O'Connell? Yeah, Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah, Mike McDaniels is the Dolphins.
Yeah. So you got Kevin O'Connell coming in, and that's going to be a pretty pass-happy. I think they're going to focus a little bit more on passing than they did in previous seasons. Mike Zimmer was a, pound the ball kind of guy, so love Cousins here as my quarterback 2 with Josh Allen as my QB1. I think that's a great pairing, so... Loving how my team's turning out now. So after that, you got James Conner, and then Sam, you're back up.
Yeah, so I'll talk a little bit about the other positions I was thinking about in my last pick. I've been tempted to go a third quarterback, but typically, if I'm gonna, I went so early at quarterback that I'm probably gonna go with. I'm not gonna say who, but there's a couple of late round guys that I really like getting, so I'm probably gonna try to get one of those guys later in the draft. So I'm not really looking at quarterback for a few more rounds. Running backs I was looking at are Elijah Mitchell and A.J. Dillon. I have so many teams where my 2 running backs are J.K. Dobbins and Elijah Mitchell. Mm-hmm. I mean, I go those 2 guys so often. I just really like the places that they fall. I like them at their ADP. I'm not really that worried about Tyrion Davis-Price with Elijah Mitchell. So I'm very tempted to go Elijah Mitchell here. I like him a lot more than A.J. Dillon, given I think, again, he's really the only guy there. I know they have these other guys, but until I see them do anything, I think Elijah Mitchell is the clear RB1, whereas Dillon's kind of waiting to take over a situation. And then, Bateman is still very tempting here to me, but I'm pretty stacked at wide receiver. But honestly, I think I'm going to go a little bit away from that. I'm looking at the tight ends here, I don't want Goddard and A.J. Brown. I don't think, I could take, and then really, there's a pretty clear teardrop for me after Schultz and Freiermuth. And I really like Schultz for the same reasons that you were saying, Brendan. So I'm honestly going to go Dalton Schultz here and see what comes back to me at running back next round.
Yeah, I really like that pick there. Yeah, so you're
Schultz
gonna...
is there was a period where we thought, okay, well, maybe Blake Jarwin's going to come back and Schultz will go back to being the tight end too, but that day is long gone. Dalton Schultz is the Cowboys tight end until further notice, and he finished the number 3 overall tight end last year. I mean, he's 25 years old, a great passing offense with honestly relatively unproven passing weapons behind CeeDee Lamb. So, I think Dalton Schultz has upside of a lot of the guys. I mean, upside higher than a lot of the guys drafted before him. So, I'm really happy to get Dalton Schultz there.
Yep. So,
All right.
after you
quick, I want to
hold on.
Real quick, I want to mention. You said I didn't mention Kirk Cousins when I was talking about Tua Tagovailoa. The reason being is his ADP. Kirk Cousins is a great quarterback too, but at the time I was in the 4th round. I love taking Kirk Cousins if I can get him a little later, but I'm just not going to take him that early. I was just going to throw that out there.
You got a guy 9 years younger than Kirk Cousins, right? So.
Oh yeah, Kirk Cousins is also old, but that is Brendan's theme. So I'm going to go over that in just a second.
Yes. I'm just saying, there's a reason you picked Tua Tagovailoa in the 4th round, and Kirk Cousins going in the 7th. He's 24 years old versus 33.
So after you take Dalton Schultz, we've got Devontae Smith, Elijah Mitchell, Kenny Pickett, Jamison Williams, Zach Wilson, Chris Olave, A.J. Dillon, and Amari Cooper off the board. Trev, you're up.
Yep. All right, so quickly, 3 things. Number 1 is Brendan is aging himself out. So, and anybody that's done this before, they know there are win now teams in your draft. Watch for them because those vets aren't going to make it back to you. They're going after a win now team. So we're 7 rounds in. He's got 1 guy that's under 20. Nope, he's 26 too. So he's got 2 guys under 26, and everyone's over that, including tight ends, wide receivers, and his QB2. So when you're looking at that, and I don't have to worry about as much being as far away from him as I am, but like Sam, if I'm Sam, I'm looking, when I make my picks before him, I'm looking at not necessarily just who do I think he'd grab, but who would I grab if I was trying to win now? And is that guy going to make it back to me? Is that guy worth me taking right now? That was the first thing. The second thing
is a very different strategy from Brendan. My team is pretty young right now, so I haven't been too worried about getting sniped so far.
Mine is too. Mine's very young, other than Josh Jacobs. I mean, and even he's young. He's 24, but I mean, he's a little older for a running back, I guess, if you want to look at it that way. But he came into the league young. So the second thing was Elijah Mitchell. Not Elijah Mitchell. Sorry, Kenny Pickett.
Relatively young. You got to make a pick though, Trev, and then talk. Just make one pick and keep talking.
Yeah, that was the plan. So, Kenny Pickett went. Thank you. Kenny Pickett went 706. We talked about it in the rookie draft, but dude, there's 0 chance I'm taking. And he's definitely going to start at some point, maybe this year, and definitely next year. He's definitely going to start. But that recency bias of the draft, of seeing how early he went in the draft. I just don't think, and that's his QB1 we're talking about for Team 6. I think that's such a mistake to take him that early. I mean, I just don't see how that's even really a thing. And then the other one was the pick right before mine, Amari Cooper. I've done startups when we thought Watson was probably going to play, and I think that's such a value getting Cooper in the 7th. But if he doesn't play, Amari Cooper is 28 years old, and if he doesn't have his Watson there to help him, then it's not going to end well for him, at least for 1 year. You're looking at pretty poor production. Yeah. So the guys that went off, Devonta Smith, Elijah Mitchell, Kenny Pickett, Jamison Williams, Zach Wilson, Chris Olave, A.J. Dillon, Amari Cooper. I would have loved for Dillon to fall to me. The running backs I was looking at, James Cook, CEH, Damien Harris, Miles Sanders. Quarterbacks, if I wanted to go QB3, Tom Brady, Ryan Tannehill, Jameis Winston, Davis Mills, Matt Ryan, all great QB3s. Wide receivers, looking at Rashad Bateman, Elijah Moore. I'm on St. Brown. I'm on Ross St. Brown. Mooney, Sky Moore. Tight ends, looking at Goddard, the Muth, Dawson Knox, Gesicki. I decided to go Bateman. I love his talent. I have him in a ton of leagues. He is now my wide receiver 4. So assuming we're going 1 flex, he's the odd man out. If it's 2 flex, he's still starting. But either way, that's so strong. And I don't normally like going 4 wide receivers in my first 7 picks, but I could not take him with the talent that was there. So before I make my second pick, does anybody have anything to say?
No, go for it.
Oh, yeah. Bateman is an incredible pick. I would have picked him at 6'10", potentially. So
yeah, would have taken him at 7-1.
Yep. And earlier in the offseason, I took him in the 9th round. I traded into the 9th round to take him because I realized how far he'd fallen. So I just wanted to throw that out there that, like, I'd take him earlier than this for sure, too. So I'm actually going to follow Sam's strategy here, and I'm looking at it, and I just don't like the fall off after the next couple of guys. But I actually really like Goddard. So I have him in a couple leagues as well, including some startups. So after Schultz and after Goddard, even Freiermuth with the new quarterback that's going to be coming in, to me, is a huge risk. So there is I think you put the tier break at after the Muth. For me, it's before. And I love his talent. But for me, Goddard is the last guy that's I would consider a tier 1 tight end. He only finished as tight end 11 last year, but the addition of more weapons on the receiving game, although it normally doesn't spell well for him, I think will actually end up leading to more valuable targets. So even though the pie, he may get a smaller slice of it, I think they're going to be much more valuable targets just because it's not just he and Devontae Smith that the quarterback's throwing to, that Hurts is throwing to. Yeah.
So after you take Goddard, we have James Cook coming off the board, and then you've got a big stretch of wide receivers. Amon-Ra St. Brown, Elijah Moore, Sky Moore, Mike Williams, Christian Watson, Darnell Mooney, and then Pat Freiermuth coming off the board. So
yeah, so it looks like a good pick for me to take Dalton Schultz there because, again, Freiermuth came off the board right before the 8-10. So if I wanted one of those 2 guys, ended up working out. I agree with you on Goddard. Trev, I just don't want A.J. Brown and Goddard on my team.
Don't blame you.
Yeah, I think with the way you were talking about Darren Waller getting a lot of targets eaten into by Devontae Adams, I think the same thing is going to happen with.
Sure, I agree. But you
Brown.
can get Goddard in the 8th round instead of the 5th for Waller. So
that's also true. But I also think the passing offense in Philly is a little bit more. It's going to be a little bit less efficient, and there's going to be a little bit less of it anyway. So, but I don't hate the pick there. I think 8-1 is fine.
So
he just got paid too.
The guy I really wanted at 8-10 was Sky Moore. I love Sky Moore. I would have loved to lock in a Patrick Mahomes Sky Moore stack and potentially have the new Tyreek Hill. I was already getting very excited about it. So unfortunately, Sky Moore was taken at 8:05. There are a couple of running backs here that I'm very happy to take. That's why I was willing to wait there. And the 2 guys are Miles Sanders, who I really think that Miles Sanders' touchdown regression is going to happen this year. I think I don't think Boston Scott is going to get as many touchdowns as he did last year. And so I think Miles Sanders has some potential still. And I also really like Tony Pollard. I think he could step into that role behind Zeke in a couple years very quickly. I'm just going to go ahead and take Miles Sanders, who already has the role, versus Brendan really doesn't like my pick apparently. No. But Miles Sanders already has a starting running back role, whereas Tony Pollard is still in a backup. So that's a differentiator for me to take Sanders there. It's not the sexiest running back pick, but it's the 8th round, and I really like Miles Sanders as a running back too. I have him as a running back too in so many of my leagues. Last year, obviously, he did not have a great season, but he had 0 touchdowns. And I personally think that he's going to regress to the mean there. He had 6 touchdowns the year before. So you can say Jalen Hurts is the big difference there, but I mean, look at how many touchdowns Boston Scott had, and tell me that he's going to get
Nova.
7 touchdowns again. Like anyway. So.
Stop.
I think with the touchdowns, Miles Sanders will be a lot better, and I'm happy to have him as my RB2. So
Yeah, so the reason why I really don't like the Miles Sanders pick is the past 3 years I've been out on Miles Sanders because he's just been going so high in drafts everywhere, and I think he was overvalued, and that's the way I viewed him, and I was pretty much right.
but I feel like you can get him cheap now. I feel like
so the reason why I don't like the pick is because I really wanted Miles Sanders 2 picks after you.
Oh,
that would have been a great running back 2 for me. I really like Miles Sanders for all the reasons you were talking about. The touchdown regression is going to happen. He was super efficient, played really well when he got the ball. So I really like Miles Sanders going into this year because you have to pay nothing for him.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
That being said, I'm on the clock here now. I got 2 picks. I know you guys have been talking a lot about going 3 quarterbacks. If I get my 2 guys that I like, I'm normally gonna wait. And even though Tom Brady's here, and that'd be pretty great to have as a quarterback 3, I think I need other positions to be filled. So running backs, you've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Damien Harris. I don't really like Damien Harris. Kareem Hunt. Wide receivers, you've got Juju, Ayuk, Hopkins is here, but he's going to be suspended for the first 6 games. Renfro, I'm not going to go him because I've got Adams. Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Brandon Cooks. I'm going to take a guy that I know has a 0 shot at coming back to me because I think I know who you might want with your next pick, Sam, and that is going to be Brandon Cooks. So the old man Brandon Cooks is coming over to my team. So
surprise.
Brandon Cooks was really good last year and when Davis Mills, I think to start the season, it was Tyrod Taylor playing the first 2.5 games. Then Davis Mills came in. And he played well and made sure to target Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Cooks was really good, even though Davis Mills isn't the greatest. And I need a running back, and man.
I think I heard this stat for Brandon Cooks the other day. He's on pace for more yards than Jerry Rice through his age 28 season, more touchdowns than Randy Moss through his age 28 season. And there's another one that I can't remember, but it's some other incredible. I think like more receptions than Calvin Johnson or something like that.
Yeah, it's something crazy.
But I mean, it's just insane how good he is, and the fact that you can get him in the 8th round.
Yeah, and it seems like no fantasy team or real NFL team wants this guy. He never sticks around. So so I'm torn here. I'm between 2 guys. I'm between Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Kareem Hunt. I really need a running back too. I've never really been a Clyde Edwards-Helaire guy. Same kind of like how I was always out on Miles Sanders. It's another thing, you're not really paying too much for him this year, but I still don't really believe in him as much. I think he'll be the guy. I don't think you have to worry about Ronald Jones, but there's just something about him that, it's just a gut feeling more so than actual, statistics or reasoning. So I'm going to take Kareem Hunt, who I do really like.
Your old man.
Yeah, and I mean, I think Kareem Hunt is, when he played, I believe the first two games he was in, he played really well last year. And I think, like, Kareem Hunt's just a guy, he's never going to be crazy good, but as a running back, too, with how the Browns run their offense, he's going to get touches. Whether it's through the passing game or with, running the ball. Listen, Kareem Hunt, he's still a great player. He's just stuck behind Nick Chubb. If he was the clear guy by himself in an offense, if he was on the Chiefs right now, Kareem Hunt would be going in the 4th round, probably. Around there. Somewhere 4th, 5th round. So I'll take the talent here because I'm not really crazy with much of the other options. Brandon Ayuk comes off the board after that, and it is back to you, Sam.
Yeah, so we're getting into some of these tiers of honestly a little bit gross players that I don't love. So we're not, this three-pack, Davis, Brandon Cooks, and Brandon Ayuk. I would have loved to have one of those three wide receivers, honestly. And so not getting one of those three really hurts. I'm probably going to either go. Well, it's hard. I'm considering going Tony Pollard and just getting the other running back I maybe wanted at that last pick. He's still on the board. I'm not a big CEH guy. I'm really not a big Damien Harris guy. I'm trying to trade any share of Damien Harris I have.
Yeah.
I think that the Patriots will just continue to draft running backs every season, and just the oldest guy in the team will get folded off. Rolled off the team. I mean, I just do not trust Patriots running backs. I know he was great last year, number 8 running back over in standard, number 14 in PPR, but
he's also going to hit touchdown regression he's going to be going the wrong way, whereas Miles Sanders is going up, he's going to be going down.
Exactly. Damien Harris had 15 touchdowns last year.
I think it was another crazy stat. I believe it was 67%, something around there, of his fantasy points came from touchdowns.
Yeah, so I totally agree. I think he's going to have huge touchdown regression. I think Ramondre Stevenson's going to get work. I think Pierre Strong might get some work as a passing down running back. James White is still there. I mean, is he still there? I think he is, yeah.
Yeah.
And so
he is.
It's just, I'm trading to anybody who wants Damien Harris, I'm trading him. Don't want Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Oh, goodness. So it's between Tony Pollard and getting a stack with Juju for me. But I'm going to go Tony Pollard.
So I didn't think it would, but I wanted him to come back.
I thought about Juju. I thought about getting a stack with Patrick Mahomes, but the thing is, it's not really a true stack. Juju only signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs, and I would say it's 50-50 if he signs again after this year.
I think it's like $3 million.
Yeah, so it's I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a fine wide receiver, but it felt like a reach for a stack that wasn't going to last for me, and don't really love any of the other wide receivers after that, and so I went with Tony Pollard, who. I love the talent of Tony Pollard. I think he is already playing a lot alongside Ezekiel Elliott, and Ezekiel Elliott is going into his age 26 season. I think he will be great this year. I think Zeke is going to be great in 2022, but I think he's going to maybe start to fall off the cliff after that, and Tony Pollard will hopefully step up. So I'm really happy to get him in the 9th round. So I went. My running backs now are Dobbins, Miles Sanders, and Tony Pollard. So I think, in my opinion, I'm honestly a running back room I'm very happy with, while, really kind of going late running backs. So happy with how it's turned out so far.
So after you pick Tony Pollard, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Dawson Knox, Tom Brady finally goes off. Juju Smith-Schuster, Damian Harris, George Pickens, DeAndre Hopkins finally goes off as well at the 9-10, and Damian Pierce at the 9-11, and Trev, you are back up.
All right, so real quick, just to break down you guys' squads, in a Superflex, Brendan, you've got Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins. At running back, you have Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt. At wide receiver, you have Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, and Brandon Cooks. At tight end, you have Travis Kelce. We're not playing with kickers or defenses. We didn't say that at the top, but we hate them. So, Sam, you at quarterback have Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence. At running back, you have J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, and Tony Pollard. And I 100% agree. I love your running back room. If I could trade you for mine, I would. Wide receivers, you've got A.J. I have one running back. At wide receiver, you've got A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Marquis Brown, and then at tight end, you've got Schultz. I regret taking Goddard. I would have rather had the tier break and had Pat or Knox and had another running back here, to be honest with you. But that's what mocks are for. And then at quarterback, I have Dak Prescott, Tua. Running back, I have the lone Josh Jacobs, Wide receiver, CD, T. Higgins, Deontay Johnson, and Rashad Bateman. And at tight end, Dallas Goedert. So at quarterback 3, I'm looking at Tannehill, Winston, Mills, Matt Ryan. I don't want to force myself to take a running back here, but if I were to, it is oh crap. Dang it.
It is Isaiah Spiller. That is who you are forcing yourself to take.
So I timed out and got Isaiah Spiller. That is fantastic. He's actually not bad for a backup. I didn't love his talent coming into this draft, but he's behind there's only one other guy there, so and he goes out 2 to 3 games a year, Austin Eckler. So he's going to have playing time. I don't know how valuable his touches will actually be, but he will be playing. What I was going to say is what I was going to say is I don't want to force myself to take a running back here. If I was going to take one, out of the guys that are left, it would have probably actually been still a rookie, but it probably would have been Rachaad White out of the guys that are left. But the talent that's on the board, I really don't want to pick up one of these guys just because I don't have a running back. Because the guys that are left, Rachaad White, Michael Carter, Singletary, Chase Edmonds, Stevenson, Cordero Patterson, Tyler Algier, I don't really want any of these guys on my actual team. So typically speaking, I'm not going to force myself to take one just because I don't have one. I'll work on that after. If I need to, pick up more lesser quality guys if I need to. So I'm actually going to probably go quarterback here and just squash my QB3 while the getting's still good. Because there is, for me, a big drop-off after Matt Ryan. So Tannehill, Winston, Mills, Ryan, and then after that it's Malik Willis, Desmond Ridder, Wentz, Daniel Jones, Jared Goff, Matt Corral, Marcus Mariota. Baker Mayfield and Mitch Trubisky are in that next tier list, but depends on how you feel about them. I'm actually going to get my first older guy, and I'm going to go with the ex-Falcon, Matt Ryan, who I love for all the same reasons you mentioned earlier, Sam. I love him this year. Maybe not for the future, but as a QB3 this year, if Tua, especially looking at my own squad, if Tua doesn't work out for this year, I think I have easily a QB2, but possibly even a low-end QB1 if he works out with what's going on in Indy. So after Matt Ryan, it was Hunter Renfrow, Allen Robinson, Michael Thomas, Mike Gesicki, Chase Claypool, Jahan Dotson, Christian Kirk, and Kadarius Toney. And Sam is back on the clock.
Yeah, and so the guy I really wanted here, honestly, was Christian Kirk. I am very guilty of wanting to build stacks, especially in Dynasty. And, I mentioned wanting to do it with Sky Moore and Patrick Mahomes. Christian Kirk, actually he's come in and signed a long-term deal, 4-year, $72 million deal with the Jaguars. He's age 25. I mean, this is the guy that they're at least saying we want to be our wide receiver 1 until they draft somebody else, And so I would have been very happy in the 10th round to get a Trevor Lawrence, Christian Kirk stack. I actually really like Christian Kirk's value this late. I mean, where else are you getting a wide receiver 1 for a team? And so, I would have been really happy with Christian Kirk. Unfortunately, he got picked 2 picks before me, so I was sniped once again.
Getting Christian Kirk that late is a value, especially he was the wide receiver 26 as the wide receiver 3 for his team, and he looks to be on a team that's going to pass just as much, and he's the wide receiver 1. So regardless of his talent, he has opportunity.
Yeah, I would have loved to get him there. I'm not going to take running back just because I am already pretty running back heavy, but if I were to take one, I'm notoriously a big Devin Singletary truther. I probably would have taken Devin Singletary here. I think he still has a lot of value alongside James Cook. So that's who I would take if I was going to go running back. Tight end, I feel like I can wait a little bit, but I do really like Cole Kmet. And then there are a couple wide receivers I like, but I'm going to see if they come back to me. And this is where my fandom's honestly going to come out, and I'm going to take Davis Mills. I have to have some Texan on my team typically. I talked earlier on as I really like to have a couple of guys as my QB3. Those guys are Davis Mills, I really try to get him anywhere just because if he does pan out this year, I mean, number one, he played better than Trevor Lawrence last year, if you look at stats. If Davis Mills if he ends up being really good and Trevor Lawrence doesn't, great. Now I still have Davis Mills and Patrick Mahomes. If Trevor Lawrence pans out and Davis Mills also pans out, I have a great trade piece with Davis Mills. Everybody wants quarterbacks in Superflex Dynasty especially, and so I'd be happy to trade either Trevor Lawrence or Davis Mills, probably Trevor Lawrence because I'd want to keep the Texan on my team. But would be happy to trade, one of those guys for more capital later on. So that's what I took here. The other quarterbacks I would look at just for you guys is Daniel Jones later on. I think I'm not a Daniel Jones truther or anything like that, but I think that Daniel Jones is somebody who at the back end of your quarterback, if you're looking for a quarterback at the back end of your draft, he's somebody who could really improve this year. I think he's walking into a much improved situation as far as coaching, offensive line, etc. And then I'd also be willing to take a shot on Carson Wentz, potentially, putting something together again. But that was honestly only because I had Terry McLaurin. Would I have been interested in taking a shot on Carson Wentz? But usually Davis Mills and Daniel Jones are my go-to back of the draft quarterbacks.
So Rachaad White comes up after you take Davis Mills, and it's back to me.
Is that who you wanted, Rachaad White?
No. So Christian Kirk was one of the two guys that I was looking at. I was looking at two guys, Christian Kirk, and the other guy that I was looking to potentially put on my retirement home team to get his 401k was Allen Robinson. Love Allen Robinson, the talent. I think great as the wide receiver 2 in LA. McVay is a great offensive mind, and I think Allen Robinson, it was more so last year just not wanting to play for the Bears. I think he was more so fed up than him actually being washed, anything like that. I'm going to make my pick real quick, and it's going to be another retirement home guy. It's going to be Adam Thielen. So I love Adam Thielen here with Kirk Cousins, pairing him up. Adam Thielen's on the way out. This is probably going to be his last relevant season. A lot of his points from fantasy came from touchdowns last year. He's going to regress, but he's also going to have those weeks where if you're playing a terrible team that can't defend the pass, he's probably going to, he's going to go off. He's probably going to have like 60-something yards, maybe a touchdown, and he'll probably have a week. You'll probably be able to know when those weeks are coming. So to get the stack with Cousins, I like him having as my wide receiver 4. My next pick, I really do need running back here, a running back 3. And I'm between two guys. I think I'm going to take the guy with the closer ADP, and hopefully the other guy won't.
Is he older though? Is he older though? Because he needs to be old.
Trust me, this guy is very old. I very much. I don't like taking Cordero Patterson. I do not like taking Cordero Patterson at all. But with the way my team is, I mean, it really is just. I think Cordero Patterson's going to be he's going to get some volume. I don't think he's going to do almost anything with it. But with the other guy that I kind of want to come back to me, I think maybe there's a shot that I can get both the guys that I want in my queue for my next 2 picks. But yeah, I think Cordero Patterson's going to have some volume. We'll see if he keeps up. But
yeah, what it really is Brendan doesn't want anybody on his taxi squad. So he doesn't like taxi squads. He hates them, and he just doesn't want anyone on his.
Nope, me and my team, we're all gonna go to Denny's. We're gonna get the early bird special. We're gonna
talk about the weather.
Yeah, yep. We're gonna be sitting on the porch in our rocking chairs, talking about how the season went after the season's over. Yeah, this is a great team. So I'm not in love with the Cordero Patterson pick, but here at 11 as my running back
Yeah,
3,
running back
it's
value.
fine. It is what it is. I'm not really sweating over. I love the way my team's constructed so far. So as my running back 3, yeah, it'll be fine.
So I have to say, I kind of low-key love Team 2.
the team that snipes you every single round.
The team that snipes me every time. They took Gabe Davis and Brendan Ayuk when I wanted one of those two guys. They take Devin Singletary now, who I wasn't going to take, but I said I love Devin Singletary. They took Pittman. They took Jerry Jeudy, who I like, Jalen Waddle, Herbert, and Russell Wilson. I low-key really love Team 2. I kind of wish I had their team. Just had to throw that out there. I still like my team, but big fan of Team 2. What I'm looking at here is almost definitely going to be a wide receiver. I already have 3 quarterbacks. I have as many running backs as wide receivers, and I like to have more receivers than running backs kind of throughout the draft. And I'm not going to look at tight end until probably a good bit later, probably past when this mock that we're doing will end. Although, I do like Cole Kmet, but I just need wide receiver more. Unfortunately, it's a position of greater need, given we start 1 tight end, and this is a 2 flex league, so I could probably start up to 4 wide receivers. And the guys that I was looking at are Michael Gallup, and then potentially Lazard or Gage, but I really don't like Lazard and Gage as much in Dynasty as I do in Redraft. Love those guys for Redraft, but for Dynasty, I'm going to pick Gallup if I can find him. Oh, I just stayed in there.
I think you got auto-drafted. I think you got auto-drafted, Michael Gallup.
Oh,
I think he was just, yeah.
Yeah, he was the first person on the ADP.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
That's
the
too funny,
pick is
though.
good there. I think at this point, looking at the wide receivers left, I think it really is kind of dried up. I don't really think that you could go wrong. I think it's just a matter of preference at this point.
Yeah, and I like Gallup. I think he's shown to be a great contested catch wide receiver. And CeeDee Lamb, well, again, I have so many shares of CeeDee Lamb. I love CeeDee Lamb. But to be honest, he hasn't really shown ability to be anything other than a slot wide receiver. Other than in college. And so I think he has that ability, but we've yet to see him as the wide receiver 1 without Amari Cooper. And so there's a chance Gallup steps into this Amari Cooper role. Now, the reason he's this low to me is really his injury status. And there's obviously a threat with Jalen Tolbert there. So, that's why he's a 10th round wide receiver. But I'm happy to take a guy who's got a share of that big Dallas passing offense. And like I said, I like him a lot more than the guys I was looking at, Gage and Lazard, who I like for this season. But I think, Gage after Tom Brady leaves is going to be nothing. And I think Lazard, I think eventually the Packers get other wide receivers, or Christian Watson, the Sins, or something. I don't think Lazard is who they want to be their guy. So.
Yeah. So after you take Michael Gallup, Cole Kmet, Michael Carter, Zach Ertz, Chase Edmond, Tyler Algier, Ryan Tannehill, Noah Fant, and Jameis Winston go off the board. So a lot more running back or quarterbacks and tight ends coming off now. And it is back to you, Trevor.
Yeah, I took Matt Ryan, saying that tier break with Mills, Tannehill, and Winston was there. So I'm not sad about taking Matt Ryan. Just because he may not have made it back. I would have had one of those other guys. But that said, I knew who I wanted for my next 2 picks when y'all were making your picks, just looking ahead at ADP. It wasn't a wide receiver, wasn't a tight end, and it was not a quarterback, as I already have 3. They were both running backs, and they both made it back to me somehow. So Chase Edmonds, Tyler Algier, Michael Carter, Devin Singletary all went after Brendan, your CP pick, who I probably would have picked, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
but
I think I know who you're taking here.
I don't know. You may not. All right, so I have Josh Jacobs.
But I don't know if 2 you're going to take. We'll see.
So I've got different strategies I use. This one I basically had to go 0 RB with just the way I picked. It's not anything that was forced on me. Just the way I chose to pick players was pretty poor if you were trying to pick them early. So my first one, yep, my first one is going to be Ramondre Stevenson. I don't love him, but I do love his PPR value, assuming James White doesn't play, which I actually don't think he will. And I do agree that they tend to age out all their running backs, but what we've seen is they tend to hold on to their PPR running back. So Stevenson showed he can do that. If they choose to move away from, dadgummit, my mind's blanking. What's his name? Damien
Harris.
Harris, thank you. Damien Harris. If they choose to move away from him, whatever, as long as Stevenson is still their PPR back, I love it. And so...
yeah, just a real quick, James White was rumored that he might start on the PUP list, so...
which is shorter this year. It's like 4 weeks instead of...
Yeah.
What was it, before 6, I think?
But
I still don't think he ever plays.
That's fair.
To be honest with you, I don't think he plays anymore. I think we're looking at him, at least I do. I look at him like I look at Carson. Like, I think it's you're on a team, but you're not on a team anymore. The other running back who I would normally take here, I'm going to be honest with you, I would actually normally take Melvin Gordon here. I'm not going to. So I would normally take Melvin Gordon because I believe he has true production on the team he's on, even if he ends up going 60-40 instead of 50-50 if he gets less touches. But just the way my team is built, I have Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Spiller, and Ramondre Stevenson. So I have a PPR guy, a touchdown backup, and Josh Jacobs, who I love. I'm actually going to pick another backup and not Gordon. I'm going with Alexander Madison. I don't think that they move away from the run game like a lot of people do. So if they stick with the run game, we already know that Cook misses about 3 to 4 games a year. But he's also getting older in age, and I think if they want to continue doing what they've been doing, I think Madison's going to become much closer to the A.J. Dillon role of last year, which he ended up being like, low-end RB2. So I think he steps into more of a PPR phase with some additional carries just to take some of the load off of Cook.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually a little bit surprised. I did think that Melvin Gordon was going to be, because I know you were a little bit higher on him earlier in the offseason. You had a little bit more shares of him.
Love Melvin Gordon. Love Melvin Gordon. But I also have, I'm just going to throw this out here, you may not have noticed, in those leagues, I also have Javonte.
Yeah.
I am huge on Melvin Gordon, and if I have Javonte, I'm trading a left nut for Melvin Gordon.
Mm-hmm. So, real quick, because I actually glanced over him, if I realized that he was still on the board, I would not have taken Cordarrelle Patterson. Rashad Penny at the 12-4.
That's what I was gonna. I thought you were gonna take Rashad Penny.
I can't believe that I didn't even see. I much rather would have Rashad Penny.
Especially for a team going for this year. I think Rashad Penny is the running back 1 this year, guaranteed.
That was just a big mistake by me because I'd rather have Rashad Penny over Cordarrelle Patterson. I genuinely got drafted.
I'm going to be honest. I know everybody loves him. I don't think you draft Kenneth Walker with the intention of not having him be the lead back.
I just
think my personal opinion.
At this point,
I mean, if you're talking about Melvin Gordon and Javonte Williams, I mean, that's what people said about Javonte too, and Melvin Gordon has been great.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think he'll be great again this year. I mean, they both have
absolutely
1,000 yards. And you think the Seahawks are going to throw the ball?
Yeah,
no.
that's the biggest thing for me is I think there's going to be a lot more running. So I think Rashad Penny there, such an oversight by me, but yeah, the Melvin Gordon, Rashad Penny were the two guys I had left. So both of those guys got sniped for me. You got David.
Just real quick, if we're gonna compare Melvin Gordon, Rashad Penny has. I mean, we talked about a little bit earlier about a guy that was good, but he hasn't played any games. He played 14 his rookie season, but he's played 23 in the last 3 years. So I mean, we don't like to label guys injury prone, but he's injury prone.
Yeah.
And getting him at where he is, if he does end up being the RB1 or the RB2 for his team, that's a great value. But I personally don't take him anywhere. I don't have him anywhere.
Okay, so I went ahead and made my pick. This is, I'm going to, since we're only drafting 13 rounds, if we were doing a longer draft, I might take more wide receivers at this point. But since we're just doing, a 13-round draft, I'm going to even out my roster a little bit. I had 4 wide receivers, 3 running backs. I'm going to go ahead and take a 4th running back. So I took Ronald Jones here. I love Ronald Jones coming into this season, and he's only 24 years old. I think, playing along Clyde Edwards-Helaire, he has a chance to be the first and second down back, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is the third down back. I mean, I think he has potential to have a James Conner-like season in terms of touchdowns. I think Ronald Jones has shown to be one of the most efficient goal line backs in the NFL over his career up to this point. So, and now he plays for a team that probably scores the most touchdowns in the NFL, or one of the teams that scores the most touchdowns. So, really happy to get Ronald Jones here. I would have loved Rashad Penny. That would have been my pick over Ronald Jones, but Ronald Jones is an easy second or backup there to me. And after Ronald Jones, I really don't like anybody. You start to get into rookie running backs or backups that you hope hit, like Khalil Herbert or Kenneth Gainwell. There's not really anybody with nearly as much upside as Ronald Jones to me after that pick. And wide receivers kind of fall off here too, honestly. You fall into these 1 or 2 season guys like Lazard and Gage. You're looking at rookies that I do like, but it's tough for me to take them early, like Alec Pierce or Jalen Tolbert. Or older guys like Robert Woods, who I think is going to have a good season, but is older. And then I'm not touching Calvin Ridley. Situation is just way too uncertain.
Woods is definitely going to be Brendan's pick, right? Because he's also like 48.
I would expect that if you want to know that Woods would be the pick here, but we'll see. I'm trying to vamp a little bit, I think, until he gets back.
So,
he's back. Okay,
yeah, I'm here, but the camera's just dead.
But yeah, so I'm taking Jones just to even out my running back and wide receiver room. Yeah.
Yeah, so right now I'm looking. I would still like a running back. There's not much left here.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I took Ronald Jones. I think it is pretty much slim pickings after that.
Yeah, so what we're going to do here is take this first little newborn baby on our team. Little youngin. I'm going to take
disappointed.
I'm going to take Khalil Herbert because I do think that Dave Montgomery will be the main guy if he does miss time. Khalil Herbert showed that he was perfectly capable of being that guy. I really liked Khalil Herbert coming out of Virginia Tech. I think he will be their guy going into next year. I think Dave Montgomery will be gone, so this is more of a future pick. Plus, if something happens and he does end up playing, I think he's going to be really good. Now I'm looking at a couple different things because I have 2 quarterbacks and I have 1 tight end. So I am going to need a tight end. We are going 13 rounds, which is a little bit short draft.
That's why I took running back too. Just assuming that this is kind of the team I have. I want more depth, right?
So assuming that we would have more depth. Quarterbacks.
So are you gonna take a tight end here, thinking like I need a backup tight end, or are you gonna?
No, I'm actually not. So assuming that you're doing a bigger draft, what I would do with the later picks, this is just to show the first couple, because once we do the later rounds, it's more of a crapshoot. But this is just to show people what we would do in the earlier rounds. But assuming you
ADP goes out the window too after about here. I mean, you start just kind of scrolling through and picking your guys.
Assuming you have more rounds, what I would probably do in 14, 15, I would probably try and double tap a guy like Njoku or Everett, which are 2 tight ends that I really like, and then get one of those 2 guys if they come back to me, and then take either Carson Wentz or Baker Mayfield or Daniel Jones. I think those 3 guys are going to be good starters this year, and that's basically what I'm looking for. I'm not going to be looking for anything really more than that. But that's what I would do later on in the rounds. I think that all of those guys would get to me. All 3 or 5 of those guys would get to me in the next 2 rounds. So this round, I was debating Ridley as a future pick, but I just don't know what's going to happen when he comes back. Is he going to stay with Atlanta? Is he going to be trying to compete for
not.
Is he? Yeah, I don't think so
that's
either.
That's why I'm worried.
Are you thinking? I don't really want him.
Okay, I'll wait until you pick. But there's somebody I would love for the win now team.
Yeah, so I think you even said it before. It's between Lazard and Gage.
Yeah,
for me.
that's what I was going to say.
I'm going to take
both
Lazard
of those guys.
here.
I think both of those guys for a win now team are great picks at this point.
Yeah, I'm going to take Lazard because he's the wide receiver 1, and Aaron Rodgers
I believe
trusts
he
him.
took Herbert.
Yeah. So
Took somebody younger than 26. That's crazy.
Yeah, so that'll round out my team. I've got Josh Allen, Kirk Cousins at quarterback. At running back, I have Aaron Jones, Kareem Hunt, Cordero Patterson, and Khalil Herbert. At wide receiver, I've got Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, Cortland Sutton, Brandon Cooks, Adam Thielen, and Alan Lazard. And tight end, I have Travis Kelce. So I'm pretty happy. Aside from, I would switch out if I got to go back and redo my picks. I just switch out Rashad Penny and Cordero Patterson, and I would say I'm very happy with the way my draft turned out. I think Kareem Hunt as your running back 2 is a little bit scary, especially for a win now team. I think that's my weak point. So I could probably look, let's say if Adam Thielen gets hot or Lazard, I would probably try and trade one of those guys with Kareem Hunt to try and maybe get someone like a David Montgomery if he's doing well, or maybe Alvin Kamara once he comes back from the suspension. So that's just the way I would pilot my team into the season. But yeah, I really like my team. So I'll let you make your pick, Sam.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just make this pick as if this was my team. So I am going to take a second tight end here. You know, I'm big on having depth in Dynasty, you know, for injury risk, really, as well as playing in bye weeks. Just because waivers are usually so slim. Now, obviously, if our teams were this big, I would probably be able to very easily stream a tight end off waivers. But, you know, I'm still going to go ahead and take a tight end here. Also because there aren't a lot of running backs and wide receivers I like, as I mentioned last time. And I think I've mentioned my first, second, and third most owned players of CeeDee Lamb, Jalen Waddle, and J.K. Dobbins. My fourth most owned player is Irv Smith Jr. And so I know you guys have tried to trade me Irv in a lot of leagues. So I'm going to go ahead and take Irv here as my second tight end. I love Irv Smith. I think obviously, Justin Jefferson is the number 1 weapon in that offense, but I think Irv coming back into offense that's going to be more high-powered with Kevin O'Connell, like we talked about, for the same reasons we're high on Kirk Cousins, I'm high on Irv Smith. You know, I think he's going to step into that, move tight end role for that offense. And I think when Adam Thielen leaves, he has a chance of being the number 2 weapon in that offense if he can stay healthy. So, love to get Irv there. Honestly, I love my tight ends. I love my team overall, honestly. I'm very happy with this team. Quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Trevor Lawrence, and a QB3 of Davis Mills. Running backs, J.K. Dobbins, Miles Sanders, Tony Pollard, and Ronald Jones. And my wide receivers, A.J. Brown, Terry McLaurin, Marquis Brown, and Michael Gallup. I'm thrilled with that team.
All right, so the next couple picks were Calvin Ridley, Jalen Tolbert, Robert Woods, Hunter Henry, Naheem Hines, who I would have taken here, by the way. So that would have been my Mr. Irrelevant. David Njoku, Wan'Dale Robinson, and Zamir White. So now I'm on the clock. And both of you guys, after you finish drafting, I love my squad. You know, that's all great and good, but I hate myself. So I'm going to go ahead and tell you that this is I love most every aspect of my team. I hate my running back room. Josh Jacobs, Isaiah Spiller.
I think that's a good example, though, right? Because sometimes you do mocks and you try strategy, and you learn that you don't like the guys that fall to you there, though, right? So. Oh,
absolutely. So when we're talking about, like, if I could trade a pick here or there, I would have taken a quarterback a hair later, taken a running back there. Maybe instead of Bateman as my wide receiver 4, I would have taken a running back because there's still just so many that are so good later on. And I'm not disappointed with Stevenson or Madison or Spiller, but just when you're talking about either of those guys being your RB2, you're coming from a position of weakness. So I actually am going to take another running back here, but it would have been Naheem Hines. I like him a lot. He's the Colts more the PPR guy than Jonathan Taylor. Not that Jonathan Taylor can't catch at all or anything, but stop. The guy I'm going to take is Brian Robinson. I'm going to take him here in the 13th for the same reasons I would not take Antonio Gibson in the 4th, 5th, 6th. I think it's split. And I think Robinson eats into a lot more than people think he does. I think right now they're projecting him to just be the goal line guy. And I think his talent, not his draft capital for sure, but his talent is more than that. So I do think there's a chance that he ends up being, definitely not the 1, but the 1B, which is a totally different thing than what people are drafting him for right now. So if I'm picking a guy here with an already weak running back room, I'm definitely trying to get a guy that has the upside to even possibly be a 1B. All right, so yep, my team at the end here is at quarterback Dak Prescott, Tua Tagovailoa, and Matt Ryan. At running back Josh Jacobs,
I like
Isaiah
your
Spiller,
quarterback
Ramondre
room.
Stevenson. Yeah, me too. Super strong. I could definitely trade away Matt
I love
Ryan
the
for
wide
a
receivers
decent
too,
RB2.
honestly. Love the wide receivers and quarterbacks. Tight end decent.
That is the sacrifice. Yeah,
So,
for
I
sure.
mean,
That's the
you went
sacrifice.
0 RB to an extent,
Tight end Dallas Goedert, and wide receivers CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Rashad Bateman, and Deontay Johnson. So,
Listen,
yeah, it's a good mock, fellas.
Yeah, and this is just another thing. You may hate your running back room right now, Trev, but look at Elijah Mitchell last year. How he was like a waiver wire darling for any team that didn't have running back depth. You just go in on one of those guys, and if they hit, for the season, you've got an RB2 that's pretty locked and loaded, and your team's looking way better than it was, going into the season. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think last year, in our main dynasty league, season, some of my running backs, James Conner, Elijah Mitchell, 2 guys that nobody thought were going to be anything, and ended up being starting running backs for my team. So that can definitely happen. I think Stevenson, Brian Robinson, Spiller, any one of those guys could turn into a surprise. So. And like we said, we love your positions otherwise. So, I think, also if this was a longer draft, you could continue to load up on some of those draft throw running backs and see what happens, or draft, dart throw running backs and see what happens.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure.
So that's going to do it for our Dynasty Startup mock. Hopefully this helps show, some of the current ADP. We're doing this, in July 10th right now, so this is still going to change a lot. I think there's going to be a lot of shifting, in some of these mid-rounds with some of these guys. Like, I think Sutton's probably going to end up going a little bit earlier, and you could see some guys falling. So it's all going to change by, the time of August when most people start drafting. But yeah, that's going to do it for today's episode. Next time, we'll be back, and we are going to be starting to break down every single team. And we are going to start with the North conferences. We're going to do the AFC and the NFC. So stay tuned for that. Have a great one.
Grosser than the other.
Yeah. So stay tuned for that. Have a great one, and peace out.